Hi, I'm Janine, and my daughter Jessica and I own Poppies and Posies Photography, where we specialize in newborns and children. And we also own Props by Posies, which is, we have a website, propsbyposies.com, and our Etsy store, Props by Posies, where we sell patterns so that other vendors and other newborn photographers can create their own props for their newborn babies. And we also sell props that are already made and bundles that have the furs and the layers and all that. So you can check us out at Props by Posies on Etsy or propsbyposies.com. Okay, so today, thank you for purchasing our Trevor Romper. This is what we're going to make today. So it's a little suspender. It's for a sitter. And so that's what we're creating today. So what we're going to need for the this romper is you're going to need some tape. You're going to need the pattern printed out. You're going to need some paper scissors. Do not cut out your paper pattern with your sewing scissors. It dulls them. And then you'll need fabric scissors also. Then you'll need your straight pins to pin on the pattern. You'll need 3 buttons, 2 small, one bigger. This is a Bodkin Threader. You can either use that to thread the elastic through, or you can use a safety pin, which I don't have on here, but a medium-sized safety pin. Also, there's some Wonder Tape that we use. I will go into more detail with that. That's optional, and I'll go into more detail later on that. You'll need a piece of yarn or string or hemp or whatever you want. This is what holds the suspenders. Let me show you here. This is what holds the suspender on. Here I have that, the end there tucked in there. So about 8 inches, and then just elastic that I've cut at about, looks like around 10 and a half, but around 10 inches is great. Needle and thread to sew the buttons on, and of course the tape to tape the patterns together. So let me just tell you really quickly about taping the patterns together. It'll print out on 6 pages, and you will have a top and a bottom on the body part. So here's this says the front top, this says the front bottom. So you're going to connect those together like so. And then you just take a piece of tape, and you're going to have a little bit of a space right here, about 1/4 inch. That's what you should have. So go ahead, and I just tape right there on both sides. And then make sure, before you cut it out, make sure that you measure your 1-inch scale square, and make sure you measure any other measurements that are noted on the pattern, so that you know that it printed out at 100%. So when you're printing, on your printing options, you want to choose 100%, not scale to fit. Make sure on your printing options that's what it is. Also, make sure you're printing the right one. I have 2 files. I have a US 8.5 by 11 file for you, and I also have an A4 for those that print on A4 paper. So if you print on 8.5 by 11 paper, don't worry about the A4 and what it is if you don't know. But the people that print on A4 know who you are, and they know who they are. And so make sure that you're just printing the right files, okay? And I think that's it for what you need to know for that. Make sure you read through the instructions and everything before you start. Okay, so that's what you'll need. And then you'll need, so this is what it will look like once it's all cut out, is you'll have all these pieces. You'll have one that's the front, one that's the back. And to be honest, I usually will use this, cut 2 of, whoops, I did that upside down, sorry. I will do 2 of these, and then I'll use this just to cut off the top part of the second one. So you can do whatever way you want. And then I have 2 pocket, these are, one goes over the other, and then this one folds down, so that's why it's the same width. And then I have a suspender connector, suspender bottom, and then suspenders, the straps. Okay, so that's what you will have. So let's go ahead and get started. Now usually I will upcycle clothing. That's kind of what I do. Every once in a while I use a fabric that I have on hand, but for the most part I upcycle. Today I'm going to use this. This is a female shirt, but I'm going to use it for this boy romper because it's a gray and white stripe. Love the stripes right now, so that's what I'm going to use. Now, what I'm going to do on this one, let me show you. I have 2 rompers here. Let me show you real quick the difference on these. This is how I originally made it, is so that you could roll up. So the pattern is this way. So you can roll it up twice, and then when I sewed the seams, I just incorporated that into it. So I didn't have to hem them, I didn't have to do anything. I just folded them up and that did that. This one, I used the bottom of the shirt as the hem. And I'm gonna do that again today since I'm using a shirt, I might as well. So instead of doing the full length, because I don't have to fold it up twice, I'm gonna go ahead and shorten that just a little bit, and I'll show you how I do that. But for now, so I'm using this shirt, and because I'm gonna cut on the fold, this is folded, of course. I have one on top and one on the bottom because it's a shirt, and there's the side seam. But I want to cut on the fold. I don't want it to have a seam. So I'm going to take the shirt and I'm going to fold it the opposite way. I'm going to go like this and fold it like that so that I have a folded edge here without a seam. And here's the seam right here. Now what you're going to want to do is make sure that you have the seams matched up. That's really important. So make sure that your seam, you can feel underneath where you're at. You just want to make sure that they are lined up so that you don't accidentally cut and have that seam into your body of your pattern, or you will wreck your outfit and you'll be sad. So make sure that you have the seams right there. And I can tell up here, I've already made it so that it's not there. So just make sure when you get it going that that's right where you are. And you can kind of feel underneath here too. Okay, so now once I have that totally set up and I have these bottoms nice and even as well. I think I did it again, but I think okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take it, because I want to cut both of mine out at the same time, and because this is a stripe, I really want to make sure that I'm lining up the stripes. And the best way to do that is to cut those both out at the same time. So I'm going to fold it over, and I'm going to line up those lines. So you don't have to do this if you have regular, fabric. You don't have to be so specific. But I'm just going to make sure those lines are all lined up. And then when you sew it together, they will line up. Okay, so there they are. Make sure that your fabric is smooth. You don't have any lumps or bumps underneath. And I do right there, so straighten that out. Okay, and so now here I have two folded edges without the seam. The seams are right here. So I'm going to take my pattern, my front pattern, and I'm just cutting two fronts at the same time. And then, like I said, I will use this to cut that extra part off that I don't need. Now, I just want to point this out. There is a hole right here in the shirt. There's a little tiny hole, but if you'll notice, it's not going to matter because the crotch is going to cut it right out. So we're not going to have to worry about that. So you can be kind of, strategic on how you're doing things to make sure that you don't have your hole or your whatever you're trying to avoid. Okay, so all my lines are all lined up here, and I'm going to put this right on the fold. So I'm going to cut out two at the same time that will be on the fold. Does that make sense? I hope. And another reason. Okay, so I'm not taking this down to the end because I'm not going to roll it up like the pattern is really for. Or if you want it to be a little bit longer, you can go ahead and just do that and not fold it up, and it will be a little bit of a longer one. But I'm going to go down. Another thing is, if you had a shirt that was a little bit smaller, you could go shorter. You can make them shorts or pants or whatever you want to do. So, okay, so there I am. So I'm going to go ahead and pin that to there, making sure that the bottom doesn't get wrinkled. It is a little tougher when it's doubled to get the pins through, but okay. Okay, that's where I'm going to go with that. Then I'm going to take, I have some coordinating fabrics that I'm going to use. So I won't even need this bottom piece. I'm just going to use, I'm going to cut out two of those. I'll use it when I cut off this top, but that's it. Okay, so I have some other fabrics here that are just from other outfits or other upcycled things. So this is a fabric I had on hand. It's just a gray stretch. It's a 4-way stretch. This is just from another shirt. You can tell this is actually the top of the last one that I did. That's the top of the one I showed you. So I didn't need that. I'm gonna use that for the pocket. And this I'm gonna use, this is part of the hood of the other, of where this came from. This was the inside of a hood. So you can use every piece and part possible on a outfit or a shirt. So I'm gonna use that for this one. And you need 2 of these. So I'm just gonna fold it so that I don't have to do it twice and kind of line up my stripes again. This I could have gotten like a little pair of pants out of or something, but because it's a stripe and it's kind of a small stripe, it's a little bit, kind of makes the camera a little crazy, makes your eyes a little crazy. So I don't want to do that because it's just a little too small of a stripe. And then this I'm going to use for the back of my pocket. This says the bottom, so the bottom of the pocket, and then this is the top that will go over that. Oh, I'm going to use a plain gray for that one. So this one, I will just make sure it's somewhat straight on those lines. And then that one. And then what I have left are the suspenders. And I want the stretch, the most stretch to go up and down. And that would be this stretch, this way. So I want that to be up and down. So I'm going to fold that because I want to cut 2. I don't need to cut it on the fold, but I just want to cut 2 at the same time, which is the suspenders. So I'm not going to put it up against the fold because actually I am going to do that. I don't have that on the pattern, but I just realized, no, I don't. No, I don't. Never mind. I'm losing it. Okay, so I'm going to cut 2 of these out. And then what happens is we actually fold it. That's why I was confused for a second. But okay, so I'm going to just get that put on. Now we see what happens on the underneath, so you just always want to make sure that you check that out and make sure that it's not doing that. Helps if you pick it up. And then you can turn over, make sure that it's not doing that. It's not puckering underneath. Okay, and then I'm going to use this same fabric for, I'm going to use, what did I say? I'm going to use that, what it says. Okay, this is the bottom of the suspender. Let me show you so you understand what that is. That says bottom of the suspender, which is this part right there. So that's a separate piece, and it's right here. Okay, and then that's the connector, and then these are the suspenders. Okay, so I'm going to do the suspenders, of course, and the bottom of the suspenders, the same material. So I don't need 2 of those. So I think I'll just cut 2 for fun. You don't need 2, but you just need 1 on those. But since we're doing it, I'll fold it up. That's what we're going to do. And then a pocket. And I need to finish this one. These are so small that they don't need to be pinned everywhere. But, okay, so there we go. So I'm going to go ahead and start cutting out. Put this over here. I'm just going to make sure real quick I have that right. So that's the bottom of the pocket. This is going to go on top of this. And then the bottom suspenders, top suspenders out of the gray. And I have the stretch going the long way. And then I'm cutting 2 of these on the fold. So I want to make sure, and I didn't get that pin down here, which was kind of, would help keep it in place there. Okay, so I'm ready to go. I'm going to just start cutting out here. Okay, so we're all cut out. This is what we have, and when we now remember, I have 2 of these, which you only need 1, so you can toss 1 or save it for another pattern. And then this one you only need 1 as well, so you can toss that as well. And then you need 2 of these. I actually forgot to cut that out in the video earlier before we stopped, so I did cut it out. It was hidden somewhere under my other outfit. And then we have 2 suspenders, and then we will have 2 bodies right here. So there's 2, and I'm going to take one of them and I'm going to line this up where the crotch is the best that I can. Doesn't have to be perfect, but let's see. Okay, so right about there. I will need to fix that up a little bit, but that's the thing. Once you cut it out, if you've cut a little bit crooked or it just doesn't look good, you can always make things right after you're done. Okay, so here we are. I'm just going to cut right across there, and that will cut off the top part that we don't need for the back. Okay, there's my back piece. Okay, and okay, so before we, so that's how I have the front and the back. Okay, that's what they're gonna look like. This will open up, this becomes the shape, and then this opens up and becomes the back, and then this will have elastic in it. It'll be all gathered up like that. And except when we sew it on, we're going to want to make sure that we have we do have right sides together, I guess. Okay, so what we're going to do is I'm going to go ahead and show you before we go down to the sewing machine. I'm going to use this Wonder Tape. So the Wonder Tape is basically a stabilizer. It's a 2-sided tape. The paper is on the top, sticky's on the bottom, and then you peel the paper off and it's sticky on that side as well. So because this has kind of been a straggler, I'm gonna cut that because it's not as sticky as it was. So this I'm going to, okay, now this is bothering me. This is bothering me because it's a little on the crooked side. So I'm going to, because of the stripes, you're a little bit more hypersensitive to how straight they're cut, because you can tell from the stripes that, so that's better. Okay. So I'm going to take this and I'm gonna actually go, the tape also, what I like about it is it kind of helps you get that straight line. So goes a little bit up, but I know from looking at this that it's this stripe that it's pretty straight. So now you're gonna just rip off, and actually I like to do the sides first, so I'm going to just take that up a little bit right there. Do the sides first, don't do what I just did. Do the sides right along the edge, and you want to make sure that you're on the wrong side of the fabric. I know I'm on the wrong side because I have my hem on this one, but just make sure you're on the wrong side of the fabric. If you can't tell what side's the wrong side, then it doesn't matter what side you use. Rip. If you rip it off, the tape comes off much easier because it leaves a little trail. It's kind of a trick I recently learned. And then I'm just going to go ahead and fold that over. I'm just hemming is what I'm doing, and this tape is a 1/4 inch long. I didn't really finish saying it's a stabilizer, so it helps when you're sewing with jersey knit, stretchy material. It helps kind of stabilize it and keep it where it is, so that it doesn't wave on you and grow. So, and I'd like to use it, I mean, it takes the place of pinning as well, so you can just take this and fold it over a 1/4 inch. That's going to be your hem. Okay, just like that. I'm going to do the same thing to the other side. So you want to do those first, then the top. And I just put it right on the edge there and use that 1/4 inch as my guide. So see how that leaves a little extra piece of tape right there? You can just grab it and peel it. It's so much easier than cutting and then trying to find the end and it's crazy. So same thing on this one. Gonna kind of try and keep that little curve. And then now I'll put that tape back down and do the top as well. We'll have to cut that excess. But once again, I'm just going to fold that down, 1/4 inch, cut off that little extra. And yeah, this tape also, after you get after you're done sewing and you get it wet, the tape dissolves, which is really nice. So you don't, it's not there all the time, it just dissolves. It just assists you while you're sewing and then goes away, which is awesome. I do have a link in the instructions on where you can purchase that. I do not own it. I do not have any stock in it. I just love to sew with it. So now that we have that done, I'm going to also do the top of the pants where the elastic's going to go. That goes down about 1/2 inch. Once again, on the wrong side of the fabric, I'm going to place my tape, and we're just right on the edge there. Once again, you can see how janky I cut. And then just peel that off. And we're just going to eyeball it because it's not super crucial, but here's your kind of your line right here where you cut, it gives you where this and this are going to meet. So I just kind of use that as your guide. It's not crucial that it's exactly, but, and then we're going to put a 1/4 inch elastic in there, 1/4 inch wide elastic. So, okay, so there's that. Then the one last thing before sewing is that I like to get the pocket put on. So I'm going to say usually I'll go down about almost 3 inches about on the thing. It's kind of what you like and don't like, so you're welcome to do what, you know, if you like something a little bit different, a little bit lower, a little bit higher, you can do that. Where this has lines on it, like I said, once again, I'm a little hypersensitive to the, I can see white on the top of that, so I just wanted to fix that. And I still can see a little bit, but I think it's going to be okay. All right, so I'm going to place the bottom of the pocket right there, and what I'm going to do is just take the tape that on, all the sides here. And this might be a little overkill with the tape, but I just love it so much that it keeps everything the way it's supposed to be that I want to use it that way. So it just makes it a cleaner finish. It looks just more professional. So take that tape off, the top layers off. And then place it not there. Okay. Okay, then we're going to place it right about there for the pocket. I just eyeball it, center it. If you're uncomfortable about doing that, you can measure and see where you're at, but I like to do that. Okay, this is also made so this pocket can fold over. I just think it gives it a little bit more character, I guess. So I just fold that down, and then when I sew it, I just keep it folded. You can iron it as well, press it. So I'm going to go ahead and do one on the top there, just to fold it down. While you're taping, also make sure you're not pulling the fabric, because then it'll look funny because it's stretched. That's the whole point, is to make sure that we don't stretch it. So that's just once again eyeballing it. And make sure it's cut straight. I just even up those. It's just because I cut very janky like. Okay, then that's gonna go right there on the top. This is crooked, so it's driving me crazy. So I will try and straighten that up. Another thing about, when we cut double on these when we really didn't need it, it does help to cut double because it helps you get a little bit straighter. Apparently it didn't help me right now, but it does help. It's easier to cut 2 layers than it is to cut 1. So once again, I'm not going to put it on the top because I'm not going to sew the top. I'm going to leave the top open, but I'm going to put it on the sides and the bottom. Okay. And just place it, center it there. So there, that's all put together. Now we can go down, and now it's so easy to, the sewing machine will just zigzag or straight stitch this together, this, and we're almost there. So the big part of it will be done. So I'll meet you downstairs at the sewing machine. Okay, so we're here at the sewing machine, and I am going to, a lot of times I will zigzag, but because this isn't going to need a lot of stretch, I'm going to go ahead and straight stitch. I like the look of a straight stitch because it looks a little bit more finished, more clean, I guess is the word. So flip your fabric over so you can see where you've folded over. And I am going to do a 1/4 inch, I don't want to mess all this stuff up, hang on one second, a 1/4 inch seam allowance, there we go, on this. Now I got a new foot. Those of you who have seen my other videos know that I don't usually use this foot. But I have a friend who's a seamstress, and she said she loves her translucent foot that you can see through. It's just clear, so you can kind of see what you're catching and what you're not catching, which is fabulous. And I wish I would have had it a long time ago. It also helps you just be able to, you know, sew a little bit straighter, a little bit neater. So that's kind of cool. So I'm just gonna butt my fabric up against the edge of this foot here. And I have moved my needle over just a smidge to make sure that I catch that. I got one of them just a little bit thinner than I like, but so anyway, I did move my needle over just a little bit. Okay, so I'm going to straight stitch. I'm going to start by going forward and then back stitching just a little bit. I just only do like just a few stitches. I had someone ask me, comment about how you get that back stitch to look good and not look, you know, like if you don't follow that line exactly, it looks kind of janky. So the way is you don't do a lot of it. You just do a few stitches and then try and keep, you know, just try and keep it on that same line, and that will make a difference. But just realized I didn't have my foot down all the way. Okay, and then when you get up to the end, once again, because it's folded over right here, it's kind of wants to pull it up. So I'm just I put my needle in the down position and then lifted up my foot to straighten that out. And then I'm just gonna go right up there, and I'm gonna back stitch a few. And if you go back and forth on that same exact line, you know, it looks good. You can't really tell. It doesn't look bad. So, okay, so that's what it looks like finished. And I'm going to go ahead and do the other sides and the top. Okay, so here we are with the sides and the front, the top part finished. That's what it looks like when it's finished. So now we're going to move on to the pocket. Now I decided, I've already taped this on, but I decided that I want to do a stitch right across here. So I'm going to take this off, trying to keep the tape on this part, okay, just like that. And I'm just going to take this and sew across that top part, just to give it'll just give it a little character. You don't have to if you don't want to. You totally don't have to, but I am going to do that. So I'm just going to straight stitch across. Yep, not sure why that jumped so far. And I have no guide hardly, but we'll see how that turns out. Back stitch just a little bit. Okay. So that just gives it a little bit of character there. And whoopsie. So there you go. Now I'm going to put it back on here, and we'll sew that on. Make sure it's centered, make sure it's where you want it, and then let's go ahead and get that sewn on. So I'm going to start on this side. I lied. I'm going to start on the right, and up at the top. Once again, I'm going to place the side of the top pocket. I'm going to place that on the edge of the foot. So about right there. And I don't have anything to hold on to, so let me grab my strings here. I like to grab my strings and pull those instead of pulling my fabric. So let's see, where So I'm going to just once again straight stitch, back stitch, keeping this edge on the foot, on the edge of the foot. And see how that's kind of buckling a little bit? I kind of have my foot probably a little tighter than I should because it's triple the fabric, but I'm just going to put my needle in the down position, pick it up, and just kind of smooth that out. Okay. And then when I get down to the bottom and I'm almost to where I think it's going to sew, I go ahead and put it in the down position, and I just turn my fabric, and it's right where it needs to be. This edge is just right on the edge of this foot. So I'm going to continue on. If it wasn't, I would just turn it back around and fix it. Okay. Just try and keep that fabric smooth. It's starting to bunch again because it is a jersey and it will do that. I do have it taped, but it still wants to get away from you. So just smooth it out. And that's just, you know, just paying attention to detail on that. That's what makes it nice. So, okay, once you get to that area where you think it's going to be, and I think I'm going to go one more, then you can lift and turn and go right back up. And because we're going against this folded up part, it's going to want to pull that up with it. So when I get too close to it, I'm going to put it in the down position, lift up, and I'm going to make sure that that's down, and then the foot will keep it down after that. It's just when it's coming up on it. And then I'm going to back stitch. And the pocket is now sewn on, and that's how it looks. So the pocket is done. Okay, let's move on to the back of the romper. I don't think I got that cut. Okay, so put that aside for a moment. Grab the back of the romper where we taped the top down. And once again, we're going to straight stitch this because this too won't need a lot of stretching because it's going to have the elastic that's going to do the stretching for you. So I'm going to go ahead and straight stitch it. And I'm going to use the inside of this foot as my guide, and I'm going to move my needle back over to the middle. I think that's where I want it to be. So I'm going to just back stitch once again. And just keeping that edge right along the inside of that foot. Just guiding the fabric. Make sure you're not pulling the fabric. You're just guiding it. This gray is, darker gray is a little bit harder for me to see. Okay, cut your strings, your threads, I should say, and grab your elastic. So that's what it looks like. Grab your elastic and your safety pin or your threader, whichever you use. This is a Bodkin Threader. I also have a link in the instructions on where you can get this on Amazon. Just thread it through, and we're going to go ahead and just thread it through here. And I just want to make sure that when I'm pulling it through initially that you kind of give that support so it doesn't pull or anything, doesn't pull the stitching out or whatever. And then as I pull through, you just want to make sure that you are holding on or pinning. See how close that is? And actually what I did last time and I really liked it when I was doing it is I'm just going to now take this and I'm just going to straight stitch it in place so I don't lose it and it doesn't pull out. And then it's hidden by the seam that we do when we're done, so it doesn't really matter. So I'm just going to go back and forth real quick on this and keep it. That'll just keep it in place. I kind of just discovered that I like doing that. When I was doing the prototype, that's what I did, and I really enjoyed doing that. So from now on, that's probably what I'll do. So then what I do is I just do it so that it has a good stretch, so that once it's, you know, when it's straight out, it can stretch straight out, you know what I mean? But you still want a little bit of a gather that's cute. So you can turn around and kind of see what you like. And you want it to be able to pull out. You don't want to get it too tight that you can't pull, that it can't pull out all the way the size of the, you know, this, but tight enough that it has a cute little ruffle. So I'm going to cut off about, what, 2 inches about? I don't have my ruler here, but it's about 2 inches, maybe 3. I think it's 2. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and just, I'm going to once again just sew that into place right there, and I'm going to go close to the edge so that it's hidden in the seam when we do the seam. You don't have to do that part. You can just wait, and when you're sewing it together, make sure you catch it in the seam. That's what I've done on previous videos, but this just makes it easy so I don't have to worry about it coming out or whatever while I'm doing it. Cut off that extra part. That's how much I cut off. Can you see that? From the 8 inches that 10 inches I cut it, I believe. Okay, so that's done. That part's done. Now we can go ahead and get these sewn together. And then that part of the romper is done, which is super nice. And then we just focus on the suspenders. So I'm going to turn this around. I'm going to put right sides together. And with I chose a stripe, which gives me a little bit more, makes me a little bit more, I have to be more careful to make sure that everything is all matched up. But so what I'm going to do is go ahead and put a piece of tape along that whole side, along this edge right here. And then I'm going to do it on the crotch and on the other edge as well. So just right on the edge, all the way down. Make sure you're not pulling the fabric. Just leave the fabric right where it is. I'm doing it on the right side of the fabric this time because we're doing a seam. And we're doing right sides together. Right sides of the fabric go together when you're sewing the seams. And then I'm going to go and do the crotch here. And I like to do this in 2 on the crotch because of the arch is so, it's a little bit trickier. So I like to just break it halfway through and then start again. Pull it off. And we'll start with this side. And we're just going to make sure we get it matched up. Now I'm doing the right side of the right side of the pants to the right side of the front. Okay, so I'm going to come up here and right where the pants start and this little curve ends, so there's a little point right there, I'm just going to match that right there. Now the trick is that I have stripes, so I have to also make sure that those are matching up. And let's see where it is on here. So make sure that those are matched up if you're doing that. Okay, that matches up real good. So, okay, I'm going to go ahead and then what I like to do is come to the bottom. Whoops. So I do the top and then I do the bottom and make sure that's lined up. Make sure those are lining up, the stripes. Once again, stripes are a little bit more difficult and I have a little bit of extra on there. Actually, I'm going to pull that down just a smidge because to match that up. Okay, so then I'm going to go along the whole width there and just make sure, or the whole length, I'm sorry, and make sure that those are lined up really well, and just kind of press there where the white stripe is. And it's lining up really well because we were really careful when we cut it out to make sure the stripes were where they needed to be. So lines up really well. Okay, so there's that. We'll go ahead and do that on this side, and then we'll do the crotch after that. Okay, so now we got those two, the sides done. We're going to do the crotch. Go ahead and take the paper off. The crotch, and then we're going to just go ahead and line that right up. You can kind of just see it just falls into place because we have the sides that are matched up so well, so it's really not difficult. But if it's giving you a hard time, go ahead and go to the ends and match up the ends, and then follow through with everything else in between. But this was really a good lineup, so it just kind of fell right into place. Okay, so the crotch is now into place. So we will start with the sides here. And this time I am going to zigzag. So I'm putting my machine on zigzag, and I'm just going to pull that fabric that's kind of gathered right there, make sure it's smooth right there. It just makes it easier to sew across that. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and zigzag, and I'm going to do the fourth inch seam allowance. So that to me is just putting it right along that seam again, right along the foot, and we're going to back stitch. And I'm just going to go all the way down. It's going to fall. Don't need that there anymore. Okay. Just a smidge of bunch in there. I'm going to put that down because I'm looking and it looks like it's pushing that top fabric. So I'm just going to readjust and make sure that I'm not getting over on that top part. Just kind of readjusting, making sure it's doing what it's supposed to. And then I'm going to back stitch again when I get to the end, and then forward. I'm hearing a little extra click in my sewing machine. I'm not sure what that is. Okay. Just clip your threads, making sure not to snip your fabric. And then I'm going to turn it over and do the same thing, and then I'm going to do the crotch as well. Everything is the same. It's going to be a zigzag, and it's going to be a zigzag around the crotch, back stitching when you start and stop, and a 1/4 inch on everything. So we can pass it through. Okay, so we're done with this, with the crotch and the sides. And what I like to do on the crotch there is I do like to do a little snips there to help it so that it doesn't bunch as much. And so the way to do that is to just take your scissors and snip just a few, making sure and being positive that you're not going over that stitch that you just made. So you just go right up to it. And I do about that many. So this is what it looks like when it's snipped. Okay, and that just helps it lay a little bit better when you turn it over and you try and smooth it out. It just kind of smooths out a little better. Okay, and it's not quite as bunchy. So as you smooth it out, so turn your outfit right side out, and you can see how cute it is. So really, that part is done. That part's it's done. Looks so cute. Super easy. So let's move on now to the suspenders and the little connector. So I'm going to grab those pieces, and this will not need any hemming or anything, so you can leave that to the side there. So the small piece will need to be it'll need to be sewn together. So what we're going to do is we're going to place right sides together the long way. I'm going to go ahead and put a little piece of tape along there. And we're going to just fold it over right sides together. Okay, so when you fold it over, you're going to have the wrong side facing you. Okay, so we're going to get right up there to the edge. Match it right up there. Make sure it's nice and down. And we're going to do the same to this one. Sorry, I was doing it on the wrong side. I'm going to do it on the right side. And this one is also going to be folded over. Show you how that works. I'm just going to peel this over. This is going to match up right to the edge. My fabric is wanting to roll just a little bit and give me a hard time, but I'm going to push through it. And make sure those ends are lined up really well. Hi, Oakley. Our dog has joined us. Oakley, our puggle. And we're down in our studio with the laminate flooring and it's very loud. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And you'll do the same thing. You'll do the same thing to this. I won't make you watch me do that, but let's just go ahead and sew these. These are going to be a straight stitch as well. I lied. I'm gonna zigzag these because these are the things that are going to stretch the most. You know, when probably on the child is the suspenders. So I'm going to go ahead and do a zigzag so that when it does stretch, it doesn't pop any stitches. Okay. So a 1/4 inch again on that, and we're going to back stitch. And then just back stitch again at the end. Okay, so now we're going to do the 2 suspender sides. So it's going to be a 1/4 inch again, and we're zigzagging. So we will back stitch here and then sew all the way down, back stitch at the end, and I'll go ahead and do the other one as well. Okay, so here I have them all sewn, just like that. Now what we're going to do is we're going to just turn them right side out. So I really don't have a trick to that. It helps if you have a pencil or something that you can help kind of push it through. On the longer ones. And then it's a good idea too if you press it when you're done, just making sure that you get that nice and open. Okay, so this will need to be ironed, but we will do that in a minute. And again, just turn inside out without snapping your stitches. Push it on through. And then what I do is if you have a pencil or something, you can shove that in there, but I did not bring one down with me. So bodkin, you could use the bodkin, but it's a little bit flimsy, so I don't think it'll work really well. So just like that. Okay, so you can do it without, but okay. And then I'm going to go up and I'm going to iron those. So do that. So get those all turned the way they need to be turned, and then press them, and I will be back. Okay, so we're back. I pressed these pieces so that you can work with them a lot better. Now place them in front of you. Put the seam part, the one that has the seam, put on the inside. Same with this, seam on the inside, and place your angles together. And what we're going to do is we're going to place them right on top of each other. And this is why the angles are important, is because this helps it come together. And I'm just going to trim that extra little, because when you sew it together, it gets that extra little fabric. So cut that so that it's pretty good. And what you're going to do is place the one on top of the other. It doesn't matter which way. And you're going to match up those lines a little bit. Let's see, this one actually. So you're just kind of match up those lines. That's why the angles matter, because it gives you the right angle so that you're not too wide that it's not going to fit on the top, and too slim that it looks funny. So just try and match those up the best that you can, like that. This one's kind of cut crazy, so you can't tell very well. Let me just even it up so you can tell a little bit better. Okay, that's better. It's just my cutting abilities that are... Okay, so there we are. And then what you're going to do is take this, one of these. So what I did is I went ahead and pre-taped these before I came back on, but I did tape around the edges of both, because one's going to go on the top and one's going to go on the bottom. So what you're going to want to do, actually I'm going to go on top first, and I'm going to cut all this extra stuff off so it's not so distracting. And then we're going to just place that on there so that it's right. The tip of that is right where the tip of this is, okay? And that makes for the great angle. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to cut a little bit more off, because I want to have some empty space right here that I can put this bottom piece on. So I'm just going to cut like a 1/4 inch off. Okay, there we go. And then I'm going to take this piece, doesn't matter anything about it. Just all you have to do is fold it in half and place it right underneath. And you don't have to overlap it. You don't have to do anything. You can if you want to overlap it. You can. This looks a little bit crooked, so I'm just going to peel it up and straighten it out a little bit. Whoopsie. It looked like it was. Let me just fix it. Sorry. Okay, you don't want it crooked because it will be distracting. Okay, so basically you want, I think I need to pull it down just a smidge. Oh, dang that. And that happens too. Just set it on there again, and maybe it is crooked. Maybe I cut it a little bit crooked, and that's why it's looking crooked. I want that one to be the bottom, so guess it doesn't really matter what side. So let's see if this one looks a little straighter. Both look about the same. Okay, so I'm going to once again place it so that that's right at the top of the point again, and then this should come just about, it should just, everything should line up just about right. If it doesn't, just make it line up. Okay, so yeah, that just looks a little bit crooked. I'm just gonna have to play with it for a minute, and you may have to do the same, just kind of work with it a little bit. I'm gonna pull this over just a smidge. Okay, so that looks good, I think. Okay, and then once again, I'm going to take that and place it just right there at the bottom. Put that on it. That should match up pretty well to the, unless you pull it apart again, with the bottom as well. So there we are, like that. Then we're going to place this. You can either flip it and do the same thing. Make sure you're all lined up. And I'm going to cut the extra off of this as well. Should have done that at the same time. Just distracts me, so. And then you're going to line this up just as close to the other one as you can. Okay. Okay. So this is basically, and I'm going to pull this a little bit because you want it to be right at the edges, because we're going to sew these right together. So make sure you kind of push in that fabric. And okay, so this is what we're going to do. This is what it looks like all down. And I don't like, so this looks a little off. I'm just going to pull this over a little bit more. It could be, you know what, it's kind of, that's why it's giving me a problem is because when I pressed it, I kind of pressed the fabric over a little bit too much. So I think that's why it's giving me a hassle. But I'm just going to pull that over a little bit so that it's okay. So now I'm going to go ahead and zigzag it all the way around, making sure that I catch everything in it. So I'm going to zigzag right on the edge, and because I have this clear foot, it's going to be a little bit easier for me, but hopefully for you too. So I'm going to put my my fabric right along the inside of this foot right here. So it's on the inside edge, and I'm gonna zigzag, and I'm gonna make the stitches just a little bit closer than I usually do on this. So they're, and sometimes like on the prototype when I went around twice on it. So it just kind of depends on what look you want, what look you're going for. So I'm just going right, I just want it right along the very edge. And then when I get to the end, right before I get to the end, like right there, I'm going to put my needle in the down position. Actually, I'm going to go in, and I'm going to turn it. And see, it looks like, see, I kind of want my edge right, I don't know if you can see, but I want my edge right in there. So I'm going to turn it back around. I'm going to go one more stitch and put my needle back down. And that's a little closer to what I want it to be. Okay, and then do the same thing. Just going to pull it through. Now this is a little bit thicker fabric. If you want to get a little thicker needle, you can. I'm using an 80 right now, and I didn't change it. That's what I used to sew the whole thing, was an 80. So okay, I'm going to go back down, turn it. Time, but again, and then we'll do it again, and when we go up the other side or down the other side. Go up to the tip top. Turn it again. We're going to go down this. It looks like I need to go one more. There we go. It looks like I'm getting a little bit of a, it's not going to be bad, but I'm just going to straighten it out a little bit. Back stitch. And then if you want to go around it again one more time, you could. I'm debating if I'm going to or not. I think I might. Okay, so I'm done. I went around it twice. It's official. I do like going around it twice. It's up to you what you want to do. And but I feel like it secures a little bit more, and it just looks a little bit better. Okay, then you're going to grab your yarn, your 8-inch piece of yarn, and you can do one of two things. My original thought was I wanted to have an option to go lower or higher depending on the size of the baby. If you needed it to go a little bit, if the baby was bigger and you needed it to go longer, then you would have that option. So in order to do that, you're going to just tie a knot, and I would just kind of put your fingers in it. You're going to try and make it enough so that your button can go, you want your button through it, but snug enough that it's not going to come out, too easily. So I'm just going to stick, I just like sticking a finger or two in there, 2 fingers in there, and do a knot. And then you can come up and do another knot right here. So you have 2 options like that. And then that will go inside here. So I actually just told you wrong. You have to feed it through here first. Sorry. Feed it through here first. Don't forget to do that. It's kind of important. And then, okay, so then you're going to do a knot. I don't think I cut this long enough to do the 2 knots, so I'm just going to do 1. You can do either way, but if you want to do 2 knots, so you do 1 here, tie it in a knot. Let me see how much I have. So right here, and then you could do another one just right at the very top. So you have 2 options. Yeah, I should have enough if I can make a knot that. See how my knot skills are. First I have to get it through, and then I can make it bigger area. Okay, then I'm going to pull this through, and see if that button will go through, and it will. So we're good. So I did the 2 options here. So you can either do 1 or 2, whichever way you want. So if you need it really tight, you can come in and just do it right here. If you need it a little bit looser, you can go ahead and do it right here. Does that make sense? So I'll show you on the baby. Okay, so and if you're going to use this higher one, you're probably going to want to, do it both. Tuck that up so you're not seeing the loop hanging on the baby. Okay. All right, so now what we need to do is go and sew the button on, and I go right underneath. I'm not going to have you watch my video sewing it on, but I'm going to just kind of eyeball it into in the center. You can measure if you want to. And then I'm going to put it in just right here under the elastic. So I'm not, the elastic's up here. This is down here. I'm going to sew it right there. And then I'm going to come back and sew these on to the top. I'll come back and show you when it's done, but what I'm going to do is just pull this over about to right there. I leave about a 1/4 inch, a little more than a 1/4 inch maybe on each edge. And I don't finish my edges. If you want a finished edge, then you can certainly do a finished edge. It looks fine without to me. So I'm going to go ahead and just do it about right there. And I'm going to take my button and sew it on just right there, like that. Okay. And I'll do the same on this. I'll just bring it over just about a little more than a 1/4 inch from the side, maybe a 1/2 inch. And then we'll be done. So I'll go ahead and sew those buttons on, and then I will come back. Okay, so we're finished. We have the finished Trevor Romper with suspenders, and I think it turned out super cute. I love this fabric. Glad I chose that. I have the buttons sewn on. Let's get a good look at that. And then on the back side also, the button is sewn on. And we're done. So the one thing I wanted to bring to your attention is on the pants. I forgot when we were sewing it up to let you know that when you go to sew up the side seams and the crotch, if you want to roll them up, as I did that's what the pattern is made for, is so to roll it up. So I just taped it and then rolled it twice and sewed it as part of the crotch and the seam. So you have that option too. If not, you can just do them a little bit longer and leave them that way. You can do them shorter, whatever you want to do. That's the funnest thing about the patterns, is it's all up to you what you want to do. So thank you for joining us on that. Be sure to, if you've purchased this pattern, you want to be sure that you join our Facebook group. It's Props by Posies Pattern VIP group. So make sure that you join that group, and I will try to get you approved as soon as possible. If your Facebook name is different than the name that you purchased your pattern under, please let me know that too, either in a message or whatever. Email is fine too. And then what else? Make sure you, there's tons of more patterns on our Etsy shop, Props by Posies, and on our website, propsbyposies.com. So you can go to either of those and purchase more patterns. Make sure you get all of our free patterns that are on our website. And if you have trouble downloading those, please let me know. I can email those to you if it's giving you a hard time. I've had a couple people say they're having a hard time. So I will try and take a look at that. But if you do have a hard time doing that, just let me know and we will get those emailed to you. So that's it. Thank you for watching and joining us for the Trevor Romper.